I love Rusty. Before I met Rusty, I wasn't really thinking. Not in the sense that I was foolish or incompetent, I was just lacking. I had always known these gifts. Gifts I'd had since I was younger, big ideas that I wanted to realize, but in the long term, things were fuzzy. I didn't want to grow up, or at least I didn't want to grow up and conform to what was expected of me. I didn't have all the answers, and that was scary. I was made to believe that no answer wasn't an answer. When I met Rusty, though, they shook my whole world upside down. The way Rusty spoke, the way Rusty dressed, the way Rusty was always so generous despite all Rusty had been through. It was inspiring. I learned and unlearned so much from Rusty. Rusty is the reason I started dressing better. Rusty is the reason I stopped saying if and started saying when. Rusty was my first everything. Rusty was my best everything. And Rusty saved me. They always brushed this off when I brought it up, saying they never saw themselves as someone who saved me, but they really did. I never expected to get this close to Rusty. We knew each other for a while, but that one summer when the yellow butterflies were out and the ocean air was salty and cool and bluebells were in season, I felt so connected to Rusty. There was always something between us. I always admired Rusty. All our friends knew that. I always knew Rusty was a troubled sort, but they were always so well put together and generous. You'd never guess that by looking at them. Things were hard for Rusty, and the pain Rusty felt every day was a pain I wanted to experience with them. To love someone is to want them to be prosperous, to want them to be at peace, but I also think to love someone is to want to experience all phases of life with them. Happy, sad, confused. Because how can you expect to spend forever with someone if you're always masking? Rusty sometimes tried to mask their feelings from me, and as a result, it hurt me because in an attempt to protect me, all they did was make me worry more. I always told Rusty that if they didn't have the right words or couldn't articulate what was wrong, they could always just try and express that. I'd rather hear, I don't know how to feel, than hear a false reality. Rusty was always masking. And those walls only ever came down for me, and even then it was only sometimes. Always cleaning up everybody else's mess, always cleaning up everybody else's problems, always giving, always. Nobody ever gave Rusty all that they deserved. I tried every day to give Rusty all I believe they deserved. I would say Rusty deserved the whole world, but they deserved so much more because they were my whole universe. Rusty had always been so deeply scarred, so deeply wounded for years and years, before Rusty even knew me, before Rusty even came here. Rusty had seen and experienced things that I was, admittedly, in a position of privilege to have never experienced or seen myself. Rusty was running on half a tank, more often than not an empty tank, working multiple jobs, studying well into the night, taking care of the little ones. Rusty needed that money to escape their hell, but they still gave and gave anyways to their friends. I loved having Rusty come see me. I loved having Rusty stay over because it meant they didn't have to go home. It meant Rusty didn't have to see him. It meant Rusty could finally rest and be protected and feel the love that Rusty had always given out. Rusty is gone now. Not gone, but they're out of my life. What me and Rusty had meant so much to them, but it couldn't be maintained. Rusty was the light of my life. Rusty helped me transition into who I am now. I helped Rusty in ways that, unfortunately, I didn't begin to truly understand how impactful that help was till they ran away. Rusty said they thought they'd never find another love as real as this, and that their biggest regret was breaking my heart. To love someone and to not be able to be with them because of circumstances beyond the both of you is helpless. Rusty never wanted to leave, and I never wanted to leave Rusty either. But they had been thoroughly beaten down, so thoroughly beaten by that home and by those walls and by everything. So beaten and broken that even something as great as this couldn't stay. Rusty had no fuel left in the tank, not for me, not for themselves, not for anyone. And yet they still continued to give. Before the line went quiet between us, one of the last things we discussed, Rusty and I, was how Rusty felt they had never fully gotten the chance to be fully Rusty, just Rusty. I never realized how privileged I was to be someone who had always had a sense of self. Some of us never had that. Many of us never had that. And yet despite this, I didn't truly feel full till I met Rusty. I wanted nothing more than to pull Rusty closer, but Rusty had to pull away. And the worst part is, it wasn't because of me, it wasn't because of them, it was because of the evil that surrounded us. Even when things were good, they were so good, we could never fully relax, especially towards the end. There was always a rush. I hated rushing, but there was always a rush. There was always an anxiety. There was always fear and Rusty that they'd be spotted, that they'd be yelled at, that they'd have to go home after a great day with me and return to that hell. Return to the torture and the sickness and the shame and the hurt. Because no matter how good things were with me, and they were really, really good, Rusty always had to go back to that home. I loved Rusty. I love Rusty. I miss Rusty. The months after were filled with bargaining and denial and frustration and tears. It was a cycle of hurt. Rusty had pulled away, but they couldn't commit to fully letting go. They were trapped in their own mind and heart and house, making the decisions they had to make instead of the decisions they wanted to make. I wanted nothing more than for Rusty to run back to me so I could help them, so I could hold them up and champion them as someone I'm so very proud of, as someone who's always going to be there. I wanted Rusty to run back so they could help me too, so we could have all the things we always talked about, fulfill those big dreams they put in my head. I was not a dreamer before Rusty. I had ambition, I had goals, I had dreams, I had wants, but Rusty took those things and strapped wings to them. I never wanted to put walls between me and Rusty, especially because I wasn't the one who wanted it to end. I had no control over it. And even now, it still gets to me. Even now, it still makes me angry, not at Rusty, but at our situation, at Rusty's home, at people who took advantage of Rusty's kindness, at the universe for being so cruel as to give me a Rusty and then take it away. It's been a long time since I've had dinner with Rusty, since we've had breakfast together, since we've shared the same room, laughed in the same walls, since we shared a photograph, since we were last. I've filled that void with many other things that bring me joy and things that make me excited to get up every day and be really useful. But I wouldn't be this go-getter if not for my go-getter, my Rusty, the bravest, most talented, most beautiful Rusty. My final act of love was letting go of Rusty. Waiting drove me crazy. Rusty told me not to wait, but I couldn't help it. My heart couldn't help it. Someone I had built myself up with at such a pivotal point in my life. Built a future around, had so many firsts with. I couldn't fathom that just ending on a random Tuesday through no fault of either party, but through the fault of nefarious actors. It took me so long to even entertain the idea that I might never see Rusty again. And if I were to, we'd have to be totally different. Because a lot has happened since Rusty ran away. I'm not the same person. Yet I feel all the things that a me that is no longer me felt. A me that is no longer me but was made by Rusty. There will always be Rusty in me. And there will always be me and Rusty. I loved Rusty. And even though I did everything I could for my Rusty, it will never, ever encompass all Rusty did for me by just being themselves. And even though in the end there was nothing either of us could have done to make the both of us happy, I always treasured that time we had when the world just stopped and it was just the two of us on an overcast day, on a cloudy day, on a cold day, where nothing else mattered. The ocean was gentle and warm. The bluebells were in season. The yellow butterflies were out to play. And I felt so rich just by having Rusty.